now a gold level pro. Been a good year for him.
Yeah. All right. Looks at his 6-card hand, and he's going to keep it. And we're underway here with a temple. Scry, push. And it's going to be a similar opening for Ben Stark, just of the red-white variety.
This is how standard games usually develop for the first few turns these days. There are some decks that really have a lot of first-turn plays, something like Mono Red, but those decks have really been pushed out by things like Vile Blight and Drown in Sorrow and their popularity as of late.
Temple of Malady there. Following the Temple of Silence. Now, and yeah, Chris Fennell thinks for a while. He thought for a while on that Scry. Eventually decides to push it. And we're going to see a 2-drop from Ben Stark. That is a regular occurrence. He's only playing 2 colors. He has more lands that come into play on tap than most opponents, and he's playing 8 2-drops.
Yeah.
Soulfire Grandmasters.
4 Soulfire Grandmaster
in
this
4.
deck.
And 4 Secret of the Way.
Yeah, we're used to just seeing maybe 6 2-drops, usually only 1 or 2 Soulfire Grandmasters, but Ben choosing to go with a full 4 copies, which I definitely agree with him. It served him well this weekend.
Yeah, and then he goes big in game 2, right?
Very much so. He has access to both Stormbreath Dragon and Sarkhan the Dragon Speaker for games 2 and 3.
Right. We can't possibly have an update already, can we, Simon Gertzen?
Bad news for Brad Nelson. He's down a game. He was on the play as the leader of the Swiss, but his Thoughtseize Sweetbone start matched up really poorly against Hortling Outburst and Grimace. So Eric Rath took care of him with his red-white deck.
Wow. Eric Rath, a quick win.
Yeah, in this very matchup that we're watching now.
But games 2 and 3 with Drown in Sorrows and Fleecemane Lions tends to be a little better. Here's the Hortling Outburst for Ben Stark after Hero's Downfall takes down his Soulfire Grandmaster.
Chris Fennell not going to die so easily to this Hortling Outburst, so he has access to Vile Blight and End Hostilities in his hand, so he really just has to pick his flavor with how to deal with that.
Yeah, this is a slightly different version of the deck than what Brad's playing. Mm-hmm. Chris's deck goes up over the top. They have Ugin, the Spirit Dragon. They have Liliana Vast. They have the End Hostilities main.
Brad also has the End Hostilities main, but the Liliana and the Ugin definitely give Chris Fennell an edge in those games that go really long.
Yeah. All right, Bile Blight goes 1-for-1 with the Hortling Outburst. But Rabblemaster is the next play. And Ben Stark gets in for 1. And first damage.
And interesting here, Chris may just have to go ahead and end hostilities here just to get rid of a Goblin Rabblemaster.
Yeah, that's what he's going to do.
It just shows us how powerful that 3-drop really is.
Yeah. Ben's going to use his Evolving Wilds, a card that may be a little unexpected, I think, for people when you think about a 2-color deck, but Change of the Rocks says, I really, 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 really need to have a mountain. I can't just have a red source. It has to be a mountain.
Yeah, I think the first copy of Windscarred Crag is decidedly worse than the 4th copy of Evolving Wilds in this red-white aggro deck here.
But with a mountain already in play, you can get a Plains here.
Yeah.
Chris Fennell down to 2 cards. And there's another Rabblemaster about to hit the table for Ben Stark. And 1-card board positions start to develop for the Hall of Famer.
And Chris, without an answer to this Goblin Rabblemaster, if it does attack, he'll be able to Absent Charm it, but...
So Thoughtseize looks at a hand of Wild Slash, Chain to the Rocks, and is that Valorous Stance?
That is Valorous Stance, yes. So, Chris, I mean, he pretty much has to take the Valorous Stance so that he doesn't just die to a Rabblemaster attack, but Ben, if Chris does take the Valorous Stance, will likely recognize that Chris is playing for something like Absent Charm, and then he may just choose to attack with the tokens and not attack with the Rabblemaster, thereby accruing a further advantage with that card. He's definitely not taking a Wild Slash, I can tell you that.
He does take the Valor Stance. Plays a Temple, scries, says, oh, that's nice. I'll draw that next turn.
One of the interesting parts about Chain to the Rocks in this matchup is that Chris Fennell has access to Utter End and can therefore use that card to kill a Chain to the Rocks and get an extra Siege Rhino trigger. Very strong.
Ben Stark just sends them all in.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and Chris chooses to just draw 2 cards with that Absent Charm. Doesn't actually kill the Goblin Realm Master. So perhaps he has some sort of board sweeping effect. Interested to see
Or maybe
what,
he's hoping. Definitely see Hugin the Spirit Dragon in his hand there. Starts firing off wild slashes here. Chris Fennell at 4.
Puts him down to 2 here.
Is he? Yes, he is. He's going to Hero's Downfall a Goblin. And that Goblin will be written about in song back in the Goblin Warrens.
Yeah. A hero he was.
Yeah. It's like, wow. Chris Fennell is at 3. There's a wild slash.
Slash, slash, slash.
And Ben Stark goes up 1-0 over Chris Fennell and into the boards. Okay, we're going to look in on Brad Nelson, Eric Rath. We already know that Eric Rath is up a game. And oh, look at that. Brad Nelson has a Fleece Mane Lion, Jacob Van Luden.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good here. And if he's able to leave open a mana for a removal spell to deal with a Goblin Realm Master, or just play a Courser so that he can block the token, and then just pick up the Realm Master for... Ooh, so this is a really good opportunity for Eric to get some value out of Goblin Realm Master if he does have it in his hand.
So 18 up for Nelson, playing 17 from Rath here. After that attack from the Fleece Mane Lion. There is a Goblin Rabble Master. In comes the Goblin.
And that's ideal for Eric. You're really looking for those opportunities to be able to cast that when your opponent is tapped out and doesn't have any blockers.
And you know
get
your
so much
opponent's
extra
drawing
value.
a Glare of Heresy, which does not interact with your Rabble Master.
Correct. So your Brad, he may just be forced to use Hero's Downfall to deal with that Goblin Realm Master, which isn't the worst for him.
It doesn't seem terrible.
No.
He does. It looks like he has another Courser.
Yeah, so, I mean, depending on his land situation,
Yeah,
he may be
that's-
forced to play that. And, ooh. Probably not thrilled to not see a land on top there. He's forced to pass the turn without a 4th land drop here.
Does he not have a land there?
Oh, I think there's a Temple of Malady in his hand, actually.
Yeah.
But Eric Rath definitely has access to more copies of Valorous Stance in these post-border games. Be interested to see what comes of this.
All right. Plays the Temple. And is he going to leave the Fleece Mane Lion on top with his Scry?
I doubt it.
Nope, he is not. Nice, he's a Tassiger.
Yeah.
Fine.
Tasker, a card that initially we were taking out in this matchup, but we realized that it's pretty important to double spell people around like turn 6, 7, and Tasker really does that well, especially when you're trading removal spells really aggressively with them in the early game. So
So it looks like Wrath is now a little constrained on mana. Although as the red-white deck, you know, you're pretty happy to have 3 in play.
yeah, now Fleece Mane Lion not attacking there. Pretty interesting decision. I like that decision a lot. I think that you get these free tokens if your opponent chooses to just attack with the tokens, and you really want opportunities to trade with Rabble Master.
Do you think he's going to trade the Fleece Mane Lion here for the Rabble Master?
I do.
Oh no, he's just going to eat both tokens.
Okay, so he's planning on just using a spot removal spell on the Rabble Master.
And there is a Morph from Wrath. That must be an Ash Cloud Phoenix.
I would imagine so, yeah.
I don't think he has any other ones.
An Ash Cloud Phoenix, a card that was traditionally taken out in this matchup, but I'm sure as people start realizing that the new sideboard plan for these absent control decks, they're definitely going to start leaving that in.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen people change their plans a lot from day 1 to day 2. Lightning Strikes were coming out in a lot of these matchups.
No longer.
No longer because they need to deal with Fleece Mane Lions. Fleece Mane Lion has really dictated how people are sideboarding throughout most of day 2.
described with a couple different options here. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he just played a 4-5 Tassiger. Then again, using a removal spell on the Goblin Rattlemaster is very tempting. Unable to find that 5th land. Both players stuck on lands here.
Is Brad's thinking about, he's like, well, I'm not blocking. Time to be attacking. And indeed, he goes on the offense. Attacks for 5.
Oh, he does have a 5th land.
There's his
hand.
5th land.
Okay.
Meanwhile, we're going to get an update from Simon from the back tables.
In the match between Sultai Control and Abzan Control, Jack Fogle is up a game. That's Sultai Control. He found his dig through times, and Alex Magelton's Abzan Charms were not enough card advantage to keep up with that.
Drawing 2 versus selecting 2 from your top 7.
Yes. 2 wishes, if you will.
All right, so the Rattlemaster took on a Hero's Downfall. And Eric Rath still scrambling for his 4th land. Plays the Seeker of the Way alongside his Morph. And he's in a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah.
All right.
Going to be taking another 5. He could choose to double block the Fleecebane line, but with Brad having 5 untapped lands in play, that seems like it's not the most profitable choice.
See, he knows there's a Bile Blight. There was a Bile Blight on top last turn, right?
Yes. So he does know about this Bile Blight.
So double blocking is a formula for disaster here for him.
And it seems like he has no good plays. I mean, he might be able to do something if he had a Wild Slash, but it's hard to imagine him keeping that card in the matchup. It really just has no targets.
Simon?
Another game result, Steve Rubin is up a game against Patrick Coe. They are playing an Abzan Mirror, but Steve's deck is a bit slower, and he used that to his advantage, winning the game with Elspeth.
I feel like I've heard that before. Sounds so familiar. Oh, yeah, that's all weekend long. All right, here comes the Tassiger for Brad Nelson. Eric Rath has taken 10 over the last 2 turns here.
Yeah, Courser of Krufix, you can go on the offense pretty aggressively because the 4 toughness means that your opponent's going to have to really just decimate their own clock if they want to interact with it, and no play here from Eric Rath.
By the way, we're not keeping you guys from the Finel Stark match. Those guys are still shuffling. You can see we'll put them in the lower pane there for you so you can keep an eye on them. So Glare of Heresy takes out the Seeker of the Way.
And the hits keep on coming.
Yeah, just lines up a big attack here for Brad Nelson. Bile Blight takes out the Phoenix and Rumble in for 9. That's going to be the game. Brad Nelson evens things up. A little bit from his sideboard, a little bit from the refusal for Eric's deck to deliver land, but we're going to game 3. Meanwhile, Ben Stark up a game here on Chris Fennell. These guys are still shuffling. I don't know if there have been any mulligans. Doesn't look like it, no. We're just getting look at our starting 7s. See a couple lands in hand there for Finel.
Looks like he has multiple Tassigers, which isn't really what you want, but you have enough land, and this is a difficult choice for Chris on the play here.
Looks like he's keeping, though. He is. Leads off for the Caves of Carlos.
Yeah, I think in the current standard format, you really have to keep a bit of a wider range than you might usually. Each card just has so much value. They're so powerful. And the fact that you're trading 1 for 1 so much really means that
those
it's
all
hard to pull
Tassigers, or is there a murderous cut in that mix?
I think he only has access to 2 Tassigers in his 75, so...
One of them must be a murderous. One of those Tassigers must be a murderous cut.
Would be a hero's downfall.
All right, Ben Stark ultimately decides to push his card with his Temple of Triumph.
Looks like Ben has the turn 5, turn 6 Stormbreath Dragon line, which is always pretty impressive against these Abzan decks.
All right, here's a Fleece Mane Lion from Chris Fennell, met by a Seeker of the Way. Looks like there is a Lightning Strike in hand for Ben Stark, but he's not in a hurry. He can take a hit here for 3. He'll gain that 3 back with his Seeker when he attacks.
Yeah, and one thing that's really important to notice, generally speaking, when you have the option of playing removal or playing a threat, if your life total isn't in immediate danger, or the creature on the other side of the table doesn't generate some other advantage by being in play, it's better to use your removal spells to clear the opponent's side of the table when you have a presence on the board, because it really, the fact that you're ahead on board as opposed to just making things even and then giving your opponent to get ahead again, that's pretty powerful. So it's a valuable game theory nugget of knowledge to have as a Magic player.
So basically what you're saying is Magic comes down to don't panic.
Yes.
which I think is the most common mistake people make early on in their Magic careers. Chain to the Rocks is going to get the Fleece Mane Lion out of the way, and in for 3 comes Seeker of the Way.
See, and you have all these lands that come into play tapped as this white-red deck, and it might seem awkward as this aggro deck, but a card like Chain to the Rocks really kind of solves that issue, because on this turn where you seemingly would just be playing another tap land and passing the turn, you instead get to play a removal spell of very high quality, and that's a pretty nice advantage to have there.
This is going to be pretty, depending on what Ben draws here, this could be pretty gruesome. Chris Fennell has an Erase in hand.
Ooh.
So he's going to be able to, with some pinpoint accuracy, free his Fleece Mane Lion, maybe even free it and get it to go monstrous while Ben doesn't have his guard up.
And, Ben does have Lightning Strike in hand, but it's not clear that his lands will be untapped when he enters combat.
That's right.
Here.
So here's an outpost each. So lots of choices for the Erase.
Yes.
So in for 3. But a Hero's Downfall for the Seeker.
We're interested to see what he chooses to erase.
Yeah,
here.
he's gonna erase that outpost. You don't want this
much more
red-white deck to start
than-
getting card advantage.
All right, so another fetch land. Very good for a multiple tasker hand. Ben still with a pretty healthy life total here.
One of your last opportunities to play.
But
in our scheduled
next turn, if Ben has another land, what season is it? It's Stormbreath Dragon season.
Please come up to the registration table and sign up for your final chance to booster draft this weekend.
Seems fitting. We've had winter storm warnings all over the place for the last week or so.
Stormbreath Dragon bringing the polar vortex down again.
All right. Chris Fennell just trying to figure out how he wants to cast this Tasigur. Decides to break a fetch land. Maybe looking to use that extra delve so he can keep maybe a Hero's Downfall in his yard. Maybe keep the Erase in his yard.
Yeah, Erase has a lot of value in this matchup. The one Erase in the sideboard of all these Abzan control decks that we're seeing in the top 8 is just pretty valuable. Chris Fennell actually has access to 2 Erase.
Sick.
So sick.
All right. There is Tasigur. Well, he's just going to remove the Erase.
So he doesn't want it back.
Or is he?
His mannerisms are beautiful.
Chris is just kind of talking. I don't know. Do I want the Erase? Do I want the? Chris pump fake. Maybe trying to get a read on Ben as he's thinking about what to pay with.
Yeah.
Ben's like, I don't know. Do whatever you're going to do.
Ben's going to be a difficult person to get a read on.
And in the end, he removes a land to pay for it, keeps the Erase and the Mercer. And here comes a Stormbreath Dragon. Get you to 9. There is another one coming soon.
Coming
tell you-
soon to a face near you,
Yeah.
Stormbreath Dragon. Is that Stormbreath Dragon? I believe it is.
So Glare of Heresy on Chain to the Rocks is going to return Fleece Mane Lion. It's going to let him Murderous Cut the Stormbreath Dragon and get in for 4 with Tassiger. But we know that there's another Stormbreath Dragon on the horizon.
Coming in, breathing its electrical breath.
So Ben Stark decides to take a look at what next turn has in store for him. He doesn't like it, pushes it to the bottom, pushes the Stormbreath Dragon into the red zone, drops Chris Fennell to 5.
It's a dangerous situation for Chris. And I mean, he has 2 great cards in his graveyard to deal with that Stormbreath Dragon, but will he have time? Ben can just give him back a Hero's Downfall if he sees fit. Chris, only 1 Murderous Cut in the deck, so...
What I find interesting is how Ben Stark's deck switches from this aggro deck to this mirror range deck, but he doesn't change his lands. A lot of times you'll see these decks have 1 or 2 extra lands in the sideboard, but I don't think Ben does.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, normally you would have to do that to make your deck work, but Scrylands kind of change the math.
So you just approach your scries differently.
Yeah. Value lands a little higher than you would otherwise.
Sure.
Instead of using your Evolving Wilds aggressively to thin out your deck, you maybe, use those cards on key turns to catch people off guard with a mountain.
All right, 1 card in hand for Chris Fennell. We know it's a Tassiger. Ben Stark, if he draws a 7th land here,
Yeah.
that's fine. Representing, more than 5 damage. He can go monstrous on the Stormbreath Dragon. He deals the damage to him from the Stormseeker ability.
Chris,
Says go.
choosing this deck for the weekend because this matchup is so good, finding himself on the ropes after 2 games against Hall of Famer Ben Stark. Pretty impressive.
This looks like a Goblin Rabble Master. It is.
And that's it.
Go to my attack step, says Ben. Ben says, I'm going to attack. He's like, I'm going to activate Tassiger. Ben's like, I'm going to give you Hero's Downfall.
I will not give you Murderous Cut.
Yeah. And Ben Stark takes his quarterfinal 2-0 with red-white aggro over Abzan control. The number 6 seed, Ben Stark, advances to the semifinals.
Jeremy Tomaguber, please report to the main stage. Jeremy Tomaguber, main stage, please.
And you see the Hall of Famer sort of going through the game and some of the decisions with Chris Fennell.
These guys, both Floridians, both limited masters. I'm sure they have tons of respect for each other. They're probably going to talk through the matchup a little bit. They've both been here before. Both have their fair share of Grand Prix top 8s.
So we're going over right now to Brad Nelson versus Eric Rath. Brad is on your left there. Eric Rath, the gentleman in the yellow sleeves, taking a mulligan here. So this is red-white aggro versus Abzan control, and the match is evened up at 1 game apiece.
Yeah, and this is it. Both these players, this is 1 game of Magic to decide whether or not you'll continue playing. You just, you lose, it's over. Sure, you got a qualification for the Pro Tour,
Sure.
You got a bunch of money, you got all your friends thinking you're the coolest guy in school for like at least a week.
Yeah, and Brad Nelson, making his march towards platinum.
Yeah,
He is at gold. He's on gold right now with 2 Pro Tours to go. He's got a GP top 8 here.
Yeah, and this is somebody who in 2010 seemed unstoppable, and then in 2011 everybody thought that was the end, but he's come back with a vengeance.
Okay, Temple of Malady. Scry, yep, likes it. Here's a Seeker of the Way from Eric Rath. And I'm guessing Fleece Mane Lion. It is.
It is, in fact, a Fleeceman line.
See, chain to the rocks in hand for Eric Rath, looking remarkably similar to how this match played out when we watched.
Yeah, and this
Ben
is a
Stark and Chris
great
Fennell.
draw here for Rath. I mean, he's going to follow this up with another seeker. He's double spelling already on turn 3. On the play, I mean, especially when you take into account the mulligan here. I mean, this is just tremendous.
And he's got another chain to the rocks in hand. Is this Drown in Sorrow? It is Drown in Sorrow for Brad Nelson. So he gets to 2 for 1 his opponent there.
Yeah, all the wind that was in Eric Rath's sails there, just, you know.
And no follow-up. And here comes the Siege Rhino, the medicine man.
Friendly rhinoceros.
Goes back up to 19, puts a dent in Eric Rath's life total.
Are going to have to go ahead and chain to the rocks this Siege Rhino, but as we've discussed previously, chain to the rocks a little bit dangerous to use on a Siege Rhino in this matchup because of a race and utter end.
How many races does Brad Nelson run?
Brad just has access to 1.
Okay.
So it's a little more corner case for him to find it than Finel, but...
Here comes a Courser of Crufix. Sees a Bile Blight on top. And he's going to Thought Seize here.
Yes, he's going to take 3 damage. It's quite a lot. Giving Eric a free...
But he gets to Stoke the Flame, so that's like, gaining a life.
Yeah. Well, his Courser gets to stick around, and that's going to give him more than...
Yeah, absolutely. A life and counting. Another Siege Rhino on the way.
So is he going to choose to just go ahead and use this Bile Blight here?
Attacks for 2 with the Courser.
And actually, Eric Rath, his life total, despite getting that lifelink trigger off Seeker of the Ways, kind of dwindled because the only White Source Samana he has in play are either Painlands or Mana Confluence.
Mana Confluence or Battlefield Forge. He's at 13.
I mean, Brad, under no pressure here to use that Bile Blight even.
Temple of Malady says, I'll leave the Siege Rhino on top. In comes the Seeker of the Way. It's going to eat a Bile Blight. There's a fetch land.
18 here.
Yeah. Another Drown in Sorrow.
Great answer to a number of the threats that might be an issue.
Siege Rhino number 2.
Brad
Eric Rath's in
22
trouble.
Here.
He has another Change of the Rocks. He was holding that from last turn because he knew the Rhino was coming. So 2 Siege Rhinos and a Fleecemane Lion on the rocks.
Now, Brad, it's during his upkeep. Does he want this Drown in Sorrow? I mean, it doesn't do anything right now, but it might in the future. All right, he doesn't want it. He's going to shuffle it away.
He's drawn to Drown in Sorrow here, right?
Oh, I mean,
100%. 100% to draw a Drown in Sorrow.
100%.
He's more likely to draw a Drown in Sorrow than he is to make the top 8 of a standard Grand Prix. Oh, it was a Temple. Ooh, Temple into Elspeth.
Elspeth's not a bad one.
Let's see, Simon, what's going on the back table?
Jack Fogle had the dig through times again, but Alex Maselton, after boarding, has less that get cards, and after Mastery of the Unseen resolved, he was able to win Game 2. So they are heading for Game 3.
I'm always excited to hear about a Mastery of the Unseen win. So there's Elspeth. 3 soldiers. Eric Rath's at 5. Sarkin came down and killed the Courser.
It's going to be able to take this Elspeth down to 1, but I mean, he's going to need a removal, like another burn spell to get rid of the Elspeth, and then he's still facing down 3 1/1 tokens, and he's at 5.
So he's going to activate. He's going to attack Elspeth. It looks like he's going to and cast a Phoenix. Okay. So
I can't imagine Brad doesn't just swing with everything here, plus the Elspeth again. And then Eric Rath, I mean, I don't even know what he draws there to beat that. To beat Brad's shown board at this point.
Interesting, he attacks Sarkin there. Makes 3 more tokens. Eric at a precarious life total here.
I mean,
He
he's
can
gonna
kill
need
the
enough blockers to
Elspeth,
live.
but he needs to survive.
And I mean, now he's going to need to kill 2 tokens somehow.
And that's the game. Brad Nelson, your number 1 seed, advances to the semifinals over Eric Rath. Don't feel too bad for Eric Rath. He just qualified for the Pro Tour.
Pretty awesome.
We'll see him in Barcelona for Pro Tour. Dragons of Tarkir.
Came into the day at X2, so he had to win out today to make top 8 here.
Wow.
Pretty impressive. He played against Brad Nelson early on in day 1 of this tournament.
So, we heard Simon Gertson tell us Jack Fogle and Alex Masterton are going to Game 3. Well, they're still shuffling for Game 3, and we are going to be able to watch that game in its entirety here in the quarterfinals of Grand Prix Memphis. Brian David Marshall here with Jacob Van Lunen. Jacob Fogle, of course, playing Sultai Control. We watched him play some pretty masterful games of it, but Alex Magleton, Mastery of the Unseen was the backbreaker for Magleton in Game 2 to even this up. So Opulent Palace for Fogle, Temple of Melody for Magleton, and, Temple also for Fogle.
Templing.
Yeah. Temple of Silence.
And this is how the beginning of this match will go.
Right, and both of these players will also use their charms to draw cards. Oh, Ashiok hits play on turn 3 for Fogle. He ticks it up. He removes, he doesn't hit any creatures, but he removes an Elspeth and a Read the Bones.
Yeah, I mean, thus far, when we've seen Ashiok played on turn 3 in this matchup, it has always resulted in Jack Fogle emerging victorious. So, I mean, Ashiok is a great card in the matchup. Alex Magleton, the only ways he has to deal with it, all cost 3 or more mana, and using a Hero's Downfall during your main phase, which is what you're usually forced to do against a card like that.
Right. Just
not
eat your
exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
You don't want to be playing reactively against the Sultai control strategy.
So, yeah, and Fleece Mane Lion is the play for Magleton. See a Crux of Fate in hand for Fogle. 3 more, and there's a Siege Rhino. He's going to be able to play that next turn.
Yeah, he'll lose the Ashiok to do so, but that's a fine deal. I mean,
That
you
seems
gained
okay.
an extra 3, you only paid 3 mana for your Siege Rhino.
I mean, he can also just cast Crux of Fate next turn and just continue to tick up the Ashiok. Okay. Ashiok falls to 4 from the attack from Fleece Mane Lion. What does land number 4 bring to the table for Alex Magleton? It brings a Siege Rhino. So Crux of Fate's going to be good here.
Crux of Fate's going to be great. And if he so chooses, Jack Fogle could, in fact, end the next turn with a Siege Rhino on his side of the table and nothing on Alex Magleton's side of the table. However, I assume he's just going to continue ticking up this Ashiok, because if Alex had a Hero's Downfall, I'm sure it would have already been dispensed of.
Yeah. Uses a Sultai Charm to draw 2 cards and put a card into his yard. Discards an Opulent Palace. Plays and cracks his Polluted Delta, stocking his yard. He's got a lot of Delve in this deck.
He wants to use those cards as aggressively as he possibly can. Jack Fogle ramping into card draw spells so that he can take care of things with powerful interactions.
Another Siege Rhino. It's exiled with Ashiok. And Crux of Fate. So clear the board. And, great shape for Jack Fogle here.
Yeah.
But there is...
Yeah, that hero's downfall.
There's the hero's downfall for the Ashiok.
A very important and necessary.
Simon, do you have a last update for us here?
I do, and I'm not going to say I was a doubter before, but I'm certainly a believer now. Steve Rubin with Abzan, that's so impressive. He knows exactly what to do. I don't want to say perfect play, but it was an immaculate display of how to win the Abzan mirror. They were playing the same cards, but Steve Rubin played this beautifully. He wins 2-0, and I think if he faces more Abzan decks, he's a favorite to win this GP.
All right. High praise from Simon Gertzen. Close to perfect. All right.
Simon couldn't play it better. Simon's pretty good at this game.
Dig through time for Jack Fogle. Starts his chain, but we're getting closer to a Spirit Dragon from Alex Magilton.
Alex Magilton does have the mana advantage here, and even though both players do have the Spirit Dragon right now, it's important to note, though, that Jack Fogle does have counter magic in his deck, so whereas Alex...
Well, that's why Alex is using this opportunity to cast a couple of Abzan charms.
Seems reasonable.
While Jack has tapped out for the dig through time. And there you see a negate get pulled off the top there for Fogle.
It's going to be great against an opposing Ugin here.
Here is Corsair.
Alex now has an answer for Ugin, albeit not as good.
He pushes the hero's downfall to the bottom, sees a land, says go. 2 Ugins in hand for Fogle.
The land of spirit dragons. It is dragon season. Ugin, the second dragon planeswalker, of course. Right, and
so Jack is the first to 8 here. Although he'll have to wait a turn to be able to use all that mana. Passes the turn to Magilton. Does Magilton just try to... You can't just jam an Ugin here, can you?
No, I mean, there are too many things that can go wrong. I mean, Jack could have a counterspell. You're not getting any value out of it right now. Like, right now, it's basically just a lava spike. So even if your opponent just has, like, a downfall to deal with it, you'd rather at least pick up a card before you're going to just go ahead and use that. I mean, he does have a lot of lands in play, and his opponent has cast Dig Through Time, so maybe he just rolls the dice and hopes that everything works out, but I don't think he's going to leave his tournament fate up to that type of chance.
And there's a disdainful stroke for Fogle, so he's assembling his the control pieces of the Sultai control deck.
And he seems to be happy to just sit here and do very little.
He's got Silence of Believers, he's got Hero's Downfall, he's got 2 counterspells, and he's got a pair of Ugins, and he's at 14. Oh, but there's a Tasigur. Falls to 12 from the Corsair Krufix. Magilton goes back to 20. Plays from the ability of Corsair Krufix when he plays his land. Okay. Reads things off with a Siege Rhino. Fogle falls to 9 from the Rhino.
And now Jack gets an opportunity to get a lot of value out of...
Oh my gosh. Silence the Believers. Getting 2 for 1. That card, when that card looks good, it looks great.
Gorgeous. Just that instant speed, one-sided wrap that we just saw. And now Jack, just gets to hang out with a bunch of counterspells in his hand. He's not scared of anything.
Jack, by the way, making his top 8 here, qualifies for his 3rd Pro Tour in a row.
Wow.
So, and he's made day 2.
Hard way.
Made day 2, made cash, but, not been able to string together the cues. He's had to do it through PTQs each time. Now doing it through a GP. So great job here for him this weekend, regardless of how this match turns out. But he's not done yet.
Oh, I don't think he's done yet. I think we're going to see him through the semis at the very least.
All right, so here comes a Tassiger.
Players in the final countdown.
Is that going to draw a counterspell from Jack Fogle?
I assume it will. Yeah, disdainful stroke here. You're not going to get many better targets than Tassiger, and the other targets that you might get, they're not going to accrue card advantage for your opponent if you let them resolve.
All right. So Tassiger goes down. Is there going to be an attempt in an Ugin now? Do you say, all right, I've got yes. So Alex Magiton is going to attempt Ugin. There's another disdainful stroke and a negate in hand for Fogle.
Yeah, just has it all.
He also has a hero's downfall. He can just let it resolve if he wants.
I'll just disdainful
Yeah,
stroke
he's just going to disdainful stroke it. And that's just down to 2 lands in hand for Alex Magiton and an unknown card on top. He pushes it with Temple of Silence.
And now there's a mighty planeswalker on the other side of the table.
Oh, and the mighty Satyr Wayfinder.
Yeah, perhaps the most impressive of all, Satyr Wayfinder. Satyr Wayfinder is so good.
The only creature in Jack Fogle's main deck, Satyr Wayfinder. Gets a land, plays it, scries, keeps it on top.
I believe he kept a Treasure Cruise on top.
See him just laying out his bounty of cards in his graveyard. This is really where his deck just goes into overdrive. Gets in for one. Sorry, I don't know why that always makes me laugh, but every time the Satyr Wayfinder attacks, I just crack up. And Dig Through Time was a card.
It was, yeah.
So this is where you really start to reach for the Doan's pills because your back starts to hurt.
Your hand is just too heavy holding for that many turns.
I was thinking about Magiton where it's just the backbreaker. You feel like this. He's just going to get another Dig Through Time or a Treasure Cruise here. There you see a Dig Through Time. You see a Kiora. It looks like he either has a Murderous Cut or a Tassiger. I can't make out which.
The Kioras, the Crashing Wave. Pair of them. I think sending both to the bottom here. Looks like Alex has a Thoughtseize in hand, so that might grab one of the 2 Ugins out of Jack's hand here.
And now we're going to see a Tassiger come down. Just removes his yard.
And I really like removing your yard there because it allows you to set up negate and then Tassiger back negate. Perhaps.
And I think that's what Fogle was looking at there. Passes the turn. He's like, can I have a Dig Through Time or a Sultai Charm?
Which one would you like to give me?
Oh, okay.
Sultai Charm?
All right, thank you.
That sounds good.
Wow,
I would have given him a Sultai Charm also.
Yeah, it seems like a solid play. In for 5. And there's an Ashiok off the top.
Please come to the main event stage.
All right. Ashiok hits. Fleece main line, and another spell.
That spell dealt with Tassiger also. So Alex just allowing Jack to essentially draw 2 or more cards a turn with that Tassiger.
Plays a land. Okay. Here comes Tassiger. Can I have Dig Through Time or Garrick Apex Predator?
I believe he'll give him Dig Through Time this time.
He does give him Dig Through Time.
You better give him Dig Through Time.
Players in the booster draft number 56, please report to your table.
All right.
I love this deck.
Oh yeah, this deck is just a pure delight to watch. There's so many fun interactions happening here.
And Jack attacks for 5. Alex Magiton falls to 12. Being attacked on multiple. Oh, he's gonna add a Fleece Main Lion to his board.
If he has a mana confluence in his deck. He can even monstrous it.
There's 8 spells in hand right now for Jack Fogle. 8 spells versus 2 maybe spells.
I think Alex has a land and a Thoughtseize.
Yep. Here comes Ugin the Spirit Dragon and breathes a spout of Ghostfire in Alex Magiton's direction. Alex draws a card for the turn.
Courser of Kruvik's not quite as powerful as the cards on the other side of the table right now.
Plays a land. Looked like he was going to scoop him, but...
He's just dead, though. I mean, Jack can just Sultai Charm the Courser and then end it. Yeah, 11's more than 10, and
yeah.
Jack Fogle into the semifinals here.
Okay, kills the Courser of Kruvix. Attacks for 8, and 1 spout of Ghostfire later, and Jack Fogle is through to the semifinals.
We watched him play an incredible match at the end of day 1, and we've seen him a couple times in the feature match here, and he's just been playing masterfully. His deck is incredibly difficult, and it's really exciting. Weird deck.
It really is very exciting. There's a deck Gerard Fabiano obviously sort of innovated on the Open Series, like week 1 of Fate Reforged Standard. But Jack Fogle's like, I picked up the deck. I threw away the Feed the Clan. I made some slight changes. He's like, I didn't play with it before this event, but you know what? I play a lot of control decks. This really suits me.